around the nation. DYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here. Welcome to the show. Got a good show for you guys today. A lot of stuff, actually. We're going to be diving in a lot of Trump corruption, as usual. We'll talk about that. We also have a strange end to the Bernie blackout. And I talked about that yesterday. But no, it's actually really positive. Even though something kind of bad happened to Sanders, don't worry, he's okay. We'll report on that. So, interesting stuff, the reaction. We'll talk about that. Then we've got Donald Trump tweeting ridiculously insane things, making people very, very concerned. Then we have, of course, more stuff that Trump has said that people are concerned about, mainly involving some of his plans for the border wall. Yeah. So that's fun. Then we have Republicans that are embarrassed to defend Trump. They're refusing to go on television, so that's fun. We've got more corruption, of course. And then we have a story of a Trump supporter stealing from her own mother. That's fantastic. So that's wonderful. Fun stories. So I guess before we get into it, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Really important that you do that. Helps the show get out to people who haven't seen it before. I don't really need to explain how that helps the show. It just does. I think it's pretty obvious. Then, or I should say before we get into the rest of the show as well, I want to thank some patrons. Reynold Harris, Rebecca Babcock, Richard Magnus, which is a cool name. Magnuson, sorry. Robert Lemons, Roberta Jansen, and Ron Richardson. So thank you to those people who support us and who support us on Patreon, Independent Progressive Media, patreon.com/TYTNation. Thank you for supporting us. You keep the show going. Also, thank you to the channel members as well. All right. So let's get into the stories. We'll start out with, again, a fairly positive story, weirdly enough. Now, earlier today, we got some news that Bernie Sanders has undergone some rather minor surgery on his heart. So during a Tuesday event, the senator from Vermont had reported feeling some minor chest discomfort and found that he had a blocked artery. So, look, getting a stent, that's what happened. He got about 2 stents and inserted. He's absolutely fine. And in fact, that's a pretty routine procedure, right? So following this, he's canceled his events for the next few days, probably a week. He will be likely there for the debate on October 15th. So, generally, he's in pretty good spirits, pretty good condition. So now, this prompted a lot of people on social media, as well as his fellow 2020 Democrats, to send some well wishes. So I want to share some of those with you. In fact, here's from Joe Biden. He says, Dr. Biden and I are sending our best wishes to Bernie Sanders, Jane, and the whole Sanders family. Anyone who knows Bernie understands what a force he is. Well, that's really, really nice. And absolutely true. He also said, we are confident that he will soon have a full and speedy recovery and look forward to seeing him on the trail again. All right. Love it. Here's Elizabeth Warren. Bruce, Team Warren, and I are sending all our best wishes for a speedy recovery to Bernie Sanders. I hope to see my friend back in the campaign trail very soon. All of us, now you also have, that's Warren, you also have Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg said this, all of us here at Pete for America are sending our best wishes for a speedy recovery to Senator Sanders. We're thinking of him and his family today, and I look forward to seeing him back in the campaign trail very soon. Don't worry, you guys, you're going to get your wish. He'll be back. Andrew Yang said this, oh no, stay strong, Bernie. Amy Klobuchar tweeted this out. Bernie's fighting spirit will get him through anything and everything. Good to hear he's doing better and look forward to seeing him soon. And then you even have Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris said this, thinking of Bernie Sanders today, wishing him a speedy recovery. There's one thing I know about him. He's a fighter, and I look forward to seeing him on the campaign trail soon. So, look, the reason, of course, that I'm doing this segment, I'm reading these, is because at this moment, there is a deluge of hate online as well. From, the donuts, donut Twitter, and, of course, Trump people. This is to counter that. Again, you look at some of the tweets and responses to some of this news, some of these articles, you would get super depressing. So instead of showing all the hate and negativity and all the nasty comments, I've decided to do some of the good ones, right? So, in fact, here's a here's a tweet from Jonathan Cohn, who said 2 things I'm looking forward to. Number 1, the speedy recovery for Bernie Sanders. Number 2, the emergence of a bizarre corner of the web where people believe that post-surgery Bernie is not actual Bernie, but a body double. That's fun. You know it's going to happen. Of course it's going to happen. I look forward to that as well. And then finally, we have the Tulsa Yang Gang. So one thing about the Yang supporters that I've seen is they've been incredibly nice. So look, I'm not a Yang supporter. I'm not a member of the Yang Gang, right? But God bless. If you believe in that. No, but they've been really nice. In fact, here's a tweet from one of them. She said, or he, get well, Bernie. Without Senator Sanders, many conversations we have today would not be possible. He's been a warrior for positive change in this country and around the world. Andrew Yang and the Yang Gang, hope you have a speedy recovery. We need you in this fight. Now, I love that. So I like it when people can get together, even if they don't agree, even if they have a different candidate. Get together and say, hey, we hope you feel better. It's the smaller acts of kindness. I feel like sometimes you guys need a reminder that it's out there, because day in, day out, we talk about the nasty, the hateful, the disgusting comments, that you get from certain corners of the internet. And yet most people tend to forget that Bernie Sanders is A, the most popular politician in the country. No doubt about it. And B, most people aren't on Twitter, and most people aren't horrible. It's just we tend to overfocus, I think, on some of the negative sides of the internet. And it's just good to see, to focus, to refocus, and to see that there's some good online as well. And so, and again, before you guys get super concerned about this, and I'm sure, look, I was when I first read the news, but according to cardiologists, stent insertion is a routine procedure. And in fact, Crystal Ball, on her show, she tweeted this out. She spoke with a cardiologist that said she had patients, or that he had patients back in the golf course the same day. All right. So there you go. So before you guys know it, Bernie Sanders is going to be back on the campaign trail, fighting for us, just the same as he's always been. So there's our little bit of niceness. So now we're going to go and talk about disaster. Oh, boy. Oh, man. All right. The insanity begins. Now, in his latest effort to fight the impeachment inquiry in regards to the call to the Ukrainian president, Vladimir Zelensky, President Trump called an investigation into his personal corruption a literal coup. That has some people worried, including anybody who actually thinks about things. So now, let me give you the tweets here from President Trump. He said this: as I learn more and more each day, I'm coming to the conclusion that what is taking place is not an impeachment. It is a coup intended to take away the power of the people, their vote, their freedoms, their Second Amendment, religion, military, border wall, and their God given rights as a citizen of the United States of America. That is a pretty exhaustive list. Now, of course, anybody who lives in reality knows that impeachment doesn't take away any of those things. This statement makes no sense, but what it does is that there are people that, people who are virulently pro Trump, that hits every single right note. Takes away their freedoms, their Second Amendment, the religion, the military. It takes away the wall, which, by the way, doesn't exist. And all that stuff. And the Second Amendment, especially. Oh, my God. They're going to take away the Second Amendment. Really? No. But yikes, right? And look, it's no surprise that Trump's out there saying this stuff because it's exactly what his aides are saying as well and advisors. In fact, you've got White House trade advisor Peter Navarro, who likened the effort to impeach the president. Again, we're doing an impeachment inquiry, so it's not even articles of impeachment at this point over the Ukrainian call. He says this is, quote, an attempted coup d'etat. No, not really. But more, Newt Gingrich. He goes and does an interview with Fox News, and he basically used that same phrase again to explain the impeachment proceedings, which is hilarious because Newt Gingrich led an impeachment proceeding. But anyway, so, okay, is it a coup d'etat? Well, let's examine. Coup is defined as a sudden, violent, and illegal seizure of power from a government. Again, sudden, violent, illegal, right? So now, wait a minute. What Trump did with Ukraine is illegal. It's a campaign finance violation. Maybe not high up on the list of high crimes and misdemeanors, but it certainly is a crime. You can't ask a foreign government to do an investigation on your political opponent to help you politically, because that, look, an investigation, of course, you can quantify into a dollar figure, right? It takes time, effort, resources to do an investigation. That's why it's considered a campaign contribution. And you cannot take campaign contributions, it's spelled out in the Constitution, from foreign governments. You just simply can't. And so, look, and here's the thing. Again, Donald Trump broke the law, but you don't even have to break the law to be impeached. In fact, impeachment is a political solution, right? And so any impeachment trial would not be a literal trial for crimes. It would be a trial for on a political basis, where the worst that can happen to you is you get removed from your job. You don't go to jail if you get successfully impeached. No, you get removed from your job. Impeachment, 100% legal. It's literally in the Constitution. Peter Navarro knows this. Newt Gingrich knows this. Again, Newt Gingrich literally led an impeachment of Bill Clinton for the high crime and misdemeanor of having a consensual affair with an intern while in office. So, ironically, while Newt Gingrich was also having his own affair while he was in office. Hypocrisy, right? They know it knows no bounds with Republicans. But again, Donald Trump facing impeachment, the inquiry, because he literally asked a foreign leader to conduct an investigation into Joe Biden. That is, again, campaign violation, clearly illegal. And again, as you don't have to, as I explained, commit a crime to be impeached. Republicans even tell us that. In fact, his recent Civil War tweet, a lot of people are saying, and I just pulled a Trump there, a lot of people are saying, that it could be grounds enough for impeachment. Don't believe me? Let's go to our old friend Lindsey Graham. He said this back in 1999, quote, "You don't even have to be convicted of a crime to lose your job in this constitutional republic if this body determines that your conduct as a public official is clearly out of bounds in your role. Impeachment is not about punishment. Impeachment is about cleansing the office. Impeachment is about restoring honor and integrity to the office." So, Let me ask you, you think Donald Trump's conduct was out of bounds when he called for the people who gave information to the whistleblower to be executed as spies? I'll let you figure that one out. Now, a lot of people, like I said, are really concerned about some of these recent tweets because it suggests that Trump, if he's successfully removed from office, and that's a big if, by the way, if he's removed, he might refuse to leave, which would set off a major constitutional crisis. Now, Matthew Gertz, he's the senior fellow at Media Matters. He said this, quote, "This is extremely dangerous. Trump's coup language isn't an errant presidential tweet. It's an official Trump administration talking point that multiple top aides have rolled out on state TV today," which would be, of course, Fox News at this point. Yeah, super dangerous. Historian Angus Johnson asked in response to Trump's tweet, quote, "What happens when he tweets something like this the day after he loses re-election?" And he's talked like this for a long time. So, in fact, oh man, I lost 2 years to do the Mueller report. Maybe I should stay 2 years longer. Maybe I should just have another term. You're not supposed to have a third term. But, I mean, we have something called term limits, but those don't seem to matter to Donald Trump at all. So, look, if he loses re-election, and that's, I think, far more likely to happen than an impeachment, than a successful impeachment and removal. That's just my 2 cents on that. Look, if he decides he wants to stay, that would be disastrous. Again, Johnson said this, "The orderly transfer of power in the United States is always dependent on the active cooperation of the outgoing president. What happens if that cooperation is not forthcoming? The answer, the day-to-day answer for November and December 2020 and January 2021 isn't obvious. It's not. We're not even sure that if he is legitimately beaten by a Democratic candidate, whether it be Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, or Bernie Sanders, or anyone else, the thought process here is we're not sure this guy's going to leave. And that's based on what he's been talking about. Now, again, I've talked about Republicans that said the same things about Barack Obama when there's absolutely no basis for that kind of paranoia. In this case, it sounds crazy, but when you look at what he said, what you look at what he's talked about and what he says he's joked about, right? And his actions and his instabilities, it's a remote possibility. And that's disastrous. Now, Johnson says one more thing here. Tweets like tonight crank up the cost of breaking up with Trump, but they also underscore the fact that there's no guarantee that waiting him out will be an effective alternate strategy. Again, yikes. Mehdi Hassan, who writes for The Intercept, wrote this back in March. "This is not a drill, and there's no reason to believe Trump will go quietly if he's defeated. There is every reason, however, to believe that he and his allies will incite hysteria and even violence. Those who assume otherwise haven't been paying attention." Again, super scary. And Shrita Parsi, executive vice president of the Quincy Institute, said this, quote, following the president's coup tweet, "The logical conclusion of this nonsensical statement is that the military should step in, save Trump, and arrest Trump's political opponents. Let that sink in." Or basically, pull a Russia, say, or even Brazil. Again, Lula da Silva, he was going to win against Jair Bolsonaro down in Brazil. So what did Bolsonaro do? He got him arrested on phony corruption charges and threw him in prison and ended up winning the election. You don't think it can happen here in America? Donald Trump is literally setting the stage for it right now. And of course, you know what that would be. It'd be literal fascism. Again, President Trump doesn't seem to believe in American institutions. He attacks his own government for disagreeing with him. He's attacked the Weather Service. for saying, oh, there's a hurricane, but don't worry, it won't hit Alabama. No, he altered with a Sharpie weather maps saying, no, I was right. I was right. It's going to hit Alabama. Did it hit Alabama? No, it did not. I mean, Jesus, man. He, again, goes after his own government. How many times did he attack Jeff Sessions in the Department of Justice before putting in Bill Barr after firing Sessions? How many times has he attacked our intelligence agencies? The FBI, NSA, CIA. I mean, come on, man. Not only that, but he also cuts oversight of government and installs his own people, loyalists, in every conceivable area, like William Barr, who will cover for him and defend him. That's what strongmen do. So now I'll leave you one thing here, one last thought, and that's the difference between a proto-fascist and a fascist. And look, you've heard us talk about, and other outlets say that he is the proto-fascist, right? Well, the only difference between those two is the first one hasn't succeeded yet. It's a scary thought. Okay. So I'm going to take a break real quick here. We'll come back. We have Donald Trump's what Donald Trump wanted in his wall, and then we have his response to that report. Stay right here. Please like and share the stream, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes around the nation.
Mike Pounds.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TOT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Got some comments here that I want to read. Member comment here from Sarge Tech says, Trump attacking intelligence is his way of life. Oh, that's a nice one. Jonathan Andrasek says, Democrats sneeze, Republicans, this is a coup. They're coming for us. We're under attack. More like Democrats sneeze and Republicans launch 37 investigations into Benghazi. That's usually what happens. But in this case, now that Democrats have the House, they can launch their own investigations, which they have. And I'll be talking about one of those a little bit later in the show. So stick around for that because you'll enjoy that. Okay, a couple more comments here. Malbec6 says, I really appreciate what you're doing. Well, thank you. I appreciate comments like that. It's nice to see that people appreciate the good stories. Tank Girl says, I'm thankful he didn't have a heart attack or stroke, referring, of course, to Bernie Sanders. Yes. So, look, I think of blocked artery and I think, holy crap, that's really, really, really bad. But again, that's the stent, like I said, standard procedure. They do those things all the time, and people recover very, very quickly. So, again, Bernie Sanders will probably be out for about a week, which is kind of a bummer because he was supposed to go to an LGBT event. So I know there were people that were kind of mad at him from the LGBTQ community. And look, I understand, right? He had prior commitments to going to those, LGBTQ plus events. And then now that he finally planned on going to one, he has a health emergency. So that sucks. But there's really not a whole lot you can do with it. And like I said, everybody is showing their well wishes, and hopefully he does get better really, really soon. Gets back to it. James Watson points out that this is going to be used against him. I don't think that the media itself is going to use it against him. There might be like an op-ed in the New York Times or Politico or whatever like that, and some donuts on Twitter that'll go after him for it. But that's really nothing new. So we kind of expect that. All right. So thank you for the comments. Let's move on. Please like and share the stream, by the way, if you haven't already, because we've got plenty more show for you guys. All right. So let's do it.
Given to the House of Representatives.
That's wrong. Wrong button. Wrong button. All right. Operator error. All right, moving on. So President Trump has long wanted to shut down the border with Mexico. And so he's talked about that. He actually threatened to do so, put troops on the border, etc., right? And a recent New York Times report details how some of the crazy ways that he wanted to actually do it. So now, during one of the many meetings with aides about the border crisis that was happening earlier this year, Trump angrily demanded to shut down the southern border with a variety of horrifying traps and defenses. So now the president, according to this report, had often talked about fortifying a border wall with a water-filled trench, otherwise known as a moat, stocked with snakes or alligators, prompting aides to seek a cost estimate. Look, I can't believe that this would actually be like, I want a moat, I want it filled with snakes and alligators. And can we do sharks with laser beams on their head? Can we do that? No? All right, what about just the snakes and alligators? How much is that going to cost? What? What in the world? More. He also wanted the wall electrified with spikes on top that could pierce human flesh. So, giant piercing spikes. Wow. Electric piercing spikes. So then you pierce yourself on the spike. If you somehow got past the electricity, then you fall into the moat with the snakes and the alligators and possibly sharks with freaking laser beams on their heads. What is this? What is this? This is like a bad James Bond villain. I mean, holy crap. All right, so now with this in mind, in the mind of here's the thing, right? So this is what he apparently wants to do to migrants trying to cross the border. This is his mind on this, right? And the mind of some of his followers, right? So now he thinks that this is like some sort of invasion from Mexico. That's all the Mexicans coming in. Actually, it's not the Mexicans. It's people from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, Central America. They're, trying to flee violence, gang violence specifically, and corruption and war to come to America to claim asylum, which is 100% legal. But according to Trump, no, they're rapists, they're criminals, they're invaders, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're violent. Obviously not true at all. And so, of course, if he believes it's a violent invasion by all these terrible people, well, then, of course, we've got to build medieval-style defenses in order to defend against it. Again, insanity. Insanity. But his solutions, of course, get worse. I know. As if electrified spiky fences with a moat is not bad enough. Here's his other suggestion. After publicly suggesting that soldiers shoot migrants if they threw rocks, the president backed off when his staff told him that it was illegal. But later in a meeting, aides recalled, he suggested that they shoot migrants, but in the legs, in order to slow them down. You know what his aides had to tell him? That's not allowed either. How could you not know that you can't just order your military to shoot unarmed refugees? I mean, it should be obvious that you can't do that. Because that's what's going on here, right? Unarmed migrants fleeing for their lives, often with children in tow. How does he not see that? Well, because he doesn't care. He doesn't see them as human beings. He sees them as gross, disgusting invaders. And they use that rhetoric, by the way. And there's studies that show that conservatives are often more triggered by the word disgust, right? Or by disgusting images. And so they put this in people's heads that they're dirty and they're filthy and they're disease filled and they're violent and they're bringing drugs and crime, etc. And so, this is the visceral reaction that you get, that you have to put up these walls and these inhumane things and have people, soldiers literally shoot them if they try to come in. I mean, it's gross. It is disgusting, by the way. So now what's worse is where he kind of got this idea. You know where he got it from? The Israeli border with Gaza. So you had, and I remember these reports, you had Israeli snipers shooting unarmed Palestinian protesters. So that's when Trump saw that and he said, ooh, why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? Horrible. Absolutely horrible. So now, since his aides said you can't actually do that, that's illegal, we can't go and shoot protesters, well, he threw a fit. Per the article, the president became frustrated. And I think he took that moment, this is according to Thomas D. Homan, who served as Mr. Trump's acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He said, I think he took that as a moment to hit the reset button. The president wanted it to be fixed quickly. So the whole crisis, right? In the Oval Office that March afternoon, a 30-minute meeting had extended to more than 2 hours, as Mr. Trump's team had desperately tried to placate him. Mr. Trump had apparently shouted, according to people in the room, "You are making me look like an idiot. I ran on this. It's my issue." Meltdown. And so, look, during this meeting and during other, instances, he took this frustration out on Kirstjen Nielsen. Now, Kirstjen Nielsen found herself in the unfortunate position of having to tell Mr. Trump that he couldn't get what he wanted. Quote, as a result, and this is from the article, Mr. Trump routinely berated Ms. Nielsen as ineffective and worse, at least in his mind, not tough looking enough. Lou Dobbs hates you. Ann Coulter hates you. You're making me look bad. Another example is when Nielsen tried to get Trump to focus on something other than the border. When she would do that, the president would get impatient. During a briefing on the need for new legal authority to take down drones, Mr. Trump had cut her off mid-sentence as well, saying, quote, Kirsten, you didn't hear me the first time, honey. According to two people familiar with the conversation, shoot him down, sweetheart. Just shoot him out of the sky, okay? Ooh, imagine being talked to like that. Disastrous. More, when the president demanded flat black paint on his border wall, she said it would cost an additional $1 million per mile. And then, of course, that's something that they ended up not doing. When he ordered wall construction sped up, she said they needed permission from property owners. His response was, take the land, let them sue us. So let's just steal your land so we can build this wall faster. Look, that's what Donald Trump wants. And that's what he does. He tells people to do illegal things. And then when you don't do those illegal things, or when you see you can't, he takes it out on you. So that doesn't mean that we should feel bad for Kirsten Nielsen or anybody who works for Donald Trump. She's a terrible person for working in this administration in the first place. I don't think she deserves credit for telling Trump that you actually can't do these things because of the law. But this is what Trump wanted to do. He wanted a neo-feudal wall design to stop some of the most helpless people from getting into the country. So now, later on, today, or I should say earlier today, Donald Trump pushed back on this. He said during a kitchen sink press briefing, quote, I never said it. I never thought it. It's a total lie. Trump said he was approached by his communication team on Tuesday and asked whether he had actually voiced a desire to dig the water-filled trench or moat. My comms people came to me and said, sir, there's a book or something being written. It's written by Washington Post people, so you know it's inaccurate. You know it's probably a fraud, said Trump, though the article ran in the New York Times and was excerpted from a book by two Times reporters. President Trump started screaming, ranting, raving in the southern border. I wanted a wall, but I also wanted a moat, said Trump. A moat, whatever that is, it's not a word I use, but they used it. No, they used the word trench. They didn't use the word moat. You used the word moat. What you just said, you didn't actually use. I don't use the word moat, even though I just used the word moat, which wasn't even in the article. Water-filled trench. Oh, God, he's the worst liar. The worst. But he said, quote, and in the moat, I wanted alligators and snakes, and I wanted the wall to be electrified, and I wanted sharp spikes at the top. I want that whole wall to be electrocuted. Trump said, they said, did you say this? I said, why are you asking that stupid question? And then later on, he probably said under his breath, of course I said that. I just don't want you guys to know it. Look, horrible liar. And as well as, of course, horrible idea, horrible person. But that's who Donald Trump is. And you guys know that already. And it's absolutely no surprise the lengths he would go to placate the worst type of people supporting him. Jesus. All right. We have more. Now, Republicans are increasingly becoming alarmed at President Trump's response to the formal launch of the impeachment inquiry by the Democrats. So he's been tweeting out and saying things like calling the inquiry a coup, as well as calling for the death penalty towards the whistleblower and the people who handed the whistleblower the information on Ukraine, which started the whole thing. So now his increasingly unhinged responses have Republicans in private freaking out. So, this is according to an article in Politico. GOP lawmakers and operatives are concerned about what appears to be a lack of urgency from the Trump administration in forming an organized, unified response engine to the Democratic impeachment threat. So now they are citing a veteran Republican operative on this. So now what's the translation in that? The White House has no idea what they're doing. They have no defense against this. None. Now they continue. There's either a failure to fully appreciate the gravity of the situation or an inability to protect the president like they did his Supreme Court nominees with a centralized war room that has credibility with stakeholders across the party. Now, so that's very important, right? So credibility apparently in short supply because Donald Trump either fired or had resigned anybody in the administration who might have even had a shred of credibility. And of course, you have a lot of defenders, people like Mitt Romney, who, strangely enough, has more credibility. I know, right? I never thought I'd say those words ever, but has more credibility in this issue. Yes, I know. We're talking about Reek here, Reek Romney, who's actually surprisingly come out and said, look, if this Ukraine thing is as bad as it looks, that's terrible. That's really bad. And of course, you have Republicans like Bill Weld, who are running a primary against Donald Trump, such as it is, saying things super, super strong and saying, look, if this is what it is, it could be treason. You know what we do to people who commit treason. So there's that. But look, again, this is coming from them not being able to defend him because essentially what he's done, what it's shown in that not transcript but memorandum and whistleblower complaint that we have public now is that Donald Trump clearly broke the law, plain as day, and then said, oh no, what are you talking about? It's a perfect call. It's a perfect call. It's only perfect because Zelensky kissed your ass the whole time. But anyway, so now the Republicans are also afraid of defending him on TV. So they can't defend him, in Congress. They also can't defend him on television. In fact, the operative said, quote, no one wants to look like McCarthy did on 60 Minutes, and right now they'll duck and cover until they're on firmer footing. So McCarthy, of course, it's House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, goes on 60 Minutes and he literally just can't come up with a defense at all. Oh no, I didn't even read the thing. I didn't even read the whistleblower complaint. I didn't read this. I didn't read that. I don't know what's going on. Well, you're supposed to be defending Trump. Good job. So he looked like a complete idiot up there. And so everybody, all the Republicans are looking at that and saying, yeah, no, I'm not going to be that guy. No, not at all. Now, he also says, the Trump administration has blazed their own communications path up to this point, but there's deep skepticism that the late-night Fox lineup will have any credibility with the rank-and-file Republicans that are necessary to prosecute this argument against House Democrats. And notice how he brings up Fox News, right? The late-night Fox lineup. So, look, we know that Donald Trump talks to Fox hosts, talks to Sean Hannity all the time, talks to Lou Dobbs, So there's these Fox hosts that he has regular communications with. Those guys often come out as the biggest defenders of President Trump. In fact, Sean Hannity has, even though Sean Hannity in private has actually said this is really, really bad for Donald Trump. So this guy is saying, look, I don't even know if Fox News, if anybody credible on Fox News can come out and defend this. That's how poorly this is going. And look, I talked about how Fox News is having an internal struggle between the opinion wing, the very pro-Trump wing, people like Hannity, and then you have people like Chris Wallace. Again, these are all Republicans. These are all very conservative people. But even they're like, look, Chris Wallace says, I can't ignore this. This is an actual problem. Andrew Napolitano also says this is a problem. And then you've got Joe DeGenova pushing back on that, calling, Napolitano, he's a fool. He's a fool. And then, of course, you have Rudy Giuliani. Just, I don't know. I don't know what he's out there doing. Nobody can tell what he's actually doing at all. So, not only that, but look, because you have no defenses here, he has no defense. You've got Republicans in the Senate saying that right now, that if there was a secret tally that was held today for impeachment, 35 of them would vote to impeach. Not 35 out of 100, 35 out of 53. That's how many Republicans are in the Senate. 35. That's over half the caucus. Gone. But, like I said, only if it were private, not public. So that's an important distinction, right? So this shows that they're kind of in complete and utter chaos. And that's what this operative is saying and pointing out. We have no way of fighting against this narrative because it's so incredibly clear that Trump asked for favors from a foreign government. It's right there in the memo, right there in the whistleblower complaint. So they're scrambling, refusing to go on TV. Giuliani having a meltdown. We don't know what he's doing, incriminating himself and Donald Trump on live television. It sure is a spectacle. That said, the GOP operative said this. He offered a suggestion. He said the case needs to be made that today's Democratic Party and their allies in the media, of course, have planned this since Election Day 2016, and they would be moving to impeach any president, any Republican president under any circumstances. A hesitation to confront this threat with full force is forever waving a white flag. Unlike the Mueller report, this is a political battle, not a legal one. They need rapid response and credible, respected Republican voices, and they needed both yesterday. So that's the Republican plan right there. Or at least that's what this operative says should be the Republican plan. No, we need to push back on this, create the lie that it was, and again, that's what the defense is. A lie. Oh, no, the Democrats plan to do this ever since Trump got elected. And we'll just push that narrative. We'll push the narrative. We'll talk about how the media, the fake news media, the corrupt media is working together with the Democrats to eliminate Donald Trump. And so we push that narrative, and hopefully we can basically convince people, lie to them enough so that they'll believe us over their lying eyes. The fact that Donald Trump committed an actual crime. So I love how the message is going to be that. Which is funny. Again, Nancy Pelosi fought really hard against impeaching Donald Trump. It took centrist Democrats in Republican states and this Ukraine thing, right? And even John Lewis, an incredibly damning memo to be released by the White House itself for them to actually finally decide to take action. Remember that memo? It said, I want a favor. Look into my political opponents. Look into his son. Look into Biden. No matter how Republicans spin it, that's really bad. Again, Sean Hannity said this looks really, really bad. So good luck with that narrative, Republicans. You guys are going to need it. Okay. All right. I don't think I have enough time for the new House investigation, so we'll do that tomorrow. But we'll get into disastrous Republicans taking advantage of the system. Yeah. All right. So it appears that we have found evidence of waste, fraud, and abuse of Social Security. And it's surprise, surprise, it's being perpetrated by a Republican. Last month, a pro-Trump activist and commentator pled guilty to one count of Social Security fraud. Now, this is according to the Palm Beach Post. Karen Turk, not related to the Young Turks at all, just to let you know, used $17,300 in government checks that were supposed to go towards the care of her mother on herself. Now, her mother was 83 years old, now has since passed away. She was 83 years old in a nursing home with dementia. So, according to U.S. Assistant Attorney Adrian Rabinowitz, instead of using that money for her mother's care, Turk used it to fund her own upscale lifestyle. Now, this is according to the Post. Quote, suspicions that Turk was using the money for herself were first raised by a caregiver at the nursing home, where Turk's 83-year-old mother was living, who asked a Palm Beach County Circuit judge to appoint a guardian to represent the woman. The court-appointed guardian then confirmed the caregiver's suspicions that she was using the money improperly. So now, what did she do with the money? Well, so no, this is guardian Amy Nickel, right? Uh, eh, she accused Turk of using the money to fund her dream of, guess what? Appearing on The Real Housewives of Palm Beach. Really? Now, the reason that she wanted to do that apparently was to kickstart her political career, to do a political stunt. Remember, she's a Republican activist and somebody who was very, very pro-Trump. So Nichols' attorney, Brian Connell, accused Turk and her husband of renting large homes in Wellington, where they then lived, and then buying tables at equestrian events that they could not afford. What a strange way to use that money. I'm going to buy myself a table at an equestrian event. Look, all of this, my guess, is her way to try to uplift herself on the stage, to get attention, to get fame. Now, again, it's look, being a pro-Trump activist, obviously, is one way that she's going to try to get fame. Now, look, she was what was it, Miss Florida, former Miss Florida. Again, I'd never heard of her before this, so forgive me if I get some details about her, small details about her wrong. But I guess she apparently wanted to get back into the limelight really, really bad, and that involved using money that her mother needed. That they needed to take care of her mother, and just to use it on herself. I mean, that's gross. Now, there's more here. Uh, Turk's husband, Evan Turk, also has back child support that he doesn't pay. He has to pay nearly $2,000 a month in child support. And in October, it was shown that he has back child support that he owes to the amount of $32,500. So, deadbeat dad. Wonderful. Not only is the wife taking from her mom, but the husband is a bum. You talk about Republican family values. Now, again, I never heard of her before, so I had to look her up, and I already regret it because Right Wing Watch pointed out that Turk was a frequent guest on pro-Trump commentator Bill Mitchell's Your Voice America program. Guess what she said about Democrats? She called them, quote, domestic terrorists. During the whole Kavanaugh confirmation fight, she said that the sexual assault allegations against both Trump and Kavanaugh were bogus because both were, quote, unattractive. She sounds like a real winner there, guys. No wonder she was attracted to the pro-Trump circuit. Again, she wanted to make money. But instead, she's going to lose money. In fact, Turk, for this crime of Social Security fraud, faces a maximum 1-year term in prison and a $100,000 fine. Now, she will get sentenced on December 13th. So, look, I don't know about you, but I think it's just fair to say that, hey, if you defraud, the government, which is funny, defraud the government willingly in order to boost yourself up, well, you should get the maximum. Lock her up. Lock her up. Oh, it feels good, doesn't it? Taste the Schadenfreude. Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to save that new corruption story for tomorrow. So that should be really interesting. Shining a light on another one of Donald Trump's corrupt business practices. So, fun times. All right. So, I'm going to leave it at that. thank you guys for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream. Very, very important that you do so, as well as our videos. Yeah. So do that. Consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation. Again, helps us out. Or become a channel member. Another way to help us. There's Venmo, of course, PayPal, all these different ways to help out the show. So if you want to do so, please sign up, and I appreciate it. All right, guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys later.